this computer. So good evening, everyone, and welcome to our session today on conscious parenting and emotional intelligence. Today, I have with me two experts. I'm welcoming Rupali Agarwal, who is an ICS certified international mindset coach and specializes in empowering teams and fostering a foundation for growth, utilizing emotional intelligence. And we also have with us Lydia Das, who is an HR professional trainer and a certified coach in emotional intelligence. They both are joining us today for the talk. They together started Motivo to engineer growth. Motivo aims, their main aim is to have a co-creative relationship between the coach and the child, where through their activities, they encourage the individuals to generate their own perfect solution. Their mission is to empower and encourage children and young adults unleash their potential to become confident individuals and contribute to a better world. And their vision is to touch lives through their vibrant and value-based programs by partnering with parents, schools, and various educational institutions. Youth development is an ongoing growth process, and positive influence is imperative to ensure individuals outperform their potential. Mental health is something which is so important, as important as physical health, but is still not talked about much in the way it should be today. It is believed that 1 in 5 teens between the ages 12 and 18 suffer from at least one diagnosed mental health disorder. We should now start focusing on our kids' mental health and growth as much as we do for the other things like academics or sports. Thank you, Rupali and Lydia, for joining me today. And
Thank you, Sanjana. Thank you for having us.
yeah, and now over to Rupali and Lydia. So my first question is, Rupali, this will be for you. What is conscious parenting exactly? Like a lot of people are not aware. So could you first tell us what exactly is conscious parenting?
So, Sanjana, conscious parenting is actually a philosophical and a spiritual shift in your belief systems. It's actually, this spiritual shift actually changes the energy between you and your child. We are very well aware that parenting is a very intense and a very challenging journey, but it's also the most beautiful one. And we probably think that parenting is actually about the child, where in reality is more about the parent. So for you to understand what exactly is conscious parenting, let us kind of understand what is traditional parenting. So traditional parenting is one which we are probably giving to a child as per se right now, what we probably got it from our parents and probably what our parents got from their parents. So this has been going on for generations altogether. And one thing we kind of universally agree that every parent kind of loves the child, wants happiness, and wants the success of the child. This is like a irrevocable truth of the world. Absolutely, right? Now, the thing is that from the time the child is born, we almost kind of go into a mission of, kind of creating, molding, shaping the life of the child. And what we have actually devised is almost like a formula, almost like a, form and structure. These are the ways I'm going to get the child love. This is the way I'm going to get him happiness. This is the way I'm going to get him success. So what do we do for that? Probably the right school. From the moment the child is born, we're getting into a mission, we're getting the right school, the right tutor, the right sports activities, the right tuitions, the right classes, which is going to engineer his IQ, and probably the right university and the right girl. And voila, you hit the jackpot. And we have got we have succeeded in getting the happiness and success of the child. So while we are doing that, we somehow tend to objectify the love for a child. It's, it's a very harsh truth, but it's the reality that, our object, we almost try the kids we love, it becomes an ego-based love, a love based on need, a love based on possession, a love based on control, a love based on expectation. So there's almost a level of transaction in the way we kind of deal with for a love with the children. So if you do this, if you get this, you do well in this class, oh, I love you so much. You got into that Ivy League college, I so love you. So it becomes almost transactional in its nature. It's almost conditional the way we love a child.
I don't think, sorry, that anyone says, okay, you've gotten, bad marks. I mean, people, I think, are not yet there when they say, okay, so, you're not done so well. I still love you, right? Like, people are still not there. First is that why do you get bad marks? What happened? They don't first say, I still love you. It's okay. We'll try next time. They get straight into, like you said, when you do something good, we say, oh, I'm so proud of you. I love you. But no one ever says that when they're actually, maybe haven't gotten the marks, I haven't achieved a certain goal.
Yeah, because we're so engrossed in that mission of, that per se the factor, the happiness and success comes by the right grade and, like getting the A levels in school and all of that. So while I was just telling you about all of this, so what was the kind of objective, it becomes almost an ego based, a need based love. And, sometimes a parent comes and says, I love my child so much. Why isn't the child feeling it so, Well, what the child is actually feeling from inside is the control masked under this love which we are projecting in. And the inner being of the child actually is almost controlled and almost, like feeling the imposition of that kind of love. Now, when we talk about conscious parenting, what we're trying to say here. So conscious parenting is trying to tell you that each child is born complete, each child is born whole, each child is born sovereign, and he comes with his own destiny. Now, the problem starts when we start feeling the children belong, to us, when in reality, they belong with us. They are, what we try is we kind of, almost fuse and enmesh with the lives of our children. And what we have to actually look is probably have a bond of unification with the child. So what this, conscious parenting is telling you about is to bow down to the divinity and sovereignty in each child, and understanding that this child comes with his own, his own destiny. So what is actually required from the parent is to have dollops of self-love, dollop of self-worth, no points of view, no judgments about themselves, and accepting themselves as they truly are. And when they can be, that, guess how they show up for the child, They're the energy of love, unconditional love, energy of, just motivating them, nurturing them, caring them, and it's actually pure unconditional love. And the child's inner being senses that, and guess what? Now he's grounded in his feeling of that love which he's getting from his parent, and now his true authentic self is born, and now he can go about carving his own destiny. Now the problem starts when we put our fears, our expectations into the children. And conscious parenting is telling you to that myth that let free yourself from the shackles, shackles of that fear, or the shackles of our traditional parenting which we have been receiving, and look into the child as a divine soul, as a sovereign soul, and embrace him for whatever he is. So that's what is conscious parenting.
We put a lot of pressure, now that you're saying, Rupali, I realize, not only, I think it's everybody. I do it myself. I'm not going to say I don't do it. I do it myself. So, these classes you have to do. I mean, you have to go. Yeah. I mean, come on, since a year, COVID now is really restrained a lot of things. But still, otherwise, don't we say, okay, you have to wake up at this point in time. You have to have your meal at this time. You have to eat this. You have to do that. See, I still believe kids should be given a certain choice. Like, I give her a lot of choices. Even when it comes to smaller things, like, do you want to wear this or do you not want to wear this? She chooses, I'm okay. I'm not like, ye penna hi hai. I'm giving you these shorts and t-shirt, you cannot wear a frock. With my daughter, I actually do about, I say 70-80% give her a choice. But I don't for the other things like academics. I don't like to give her a choice. I mean, I know she has to study. She has to study. Like, she has to play a sport. She has to play a sport. So I think somewhere subconsciously, like that's why it's called conscious parenting. Subconsciously, we do tend to put our needs, or maybe something that we lacked in life, or something that we didn't do as a child. I just feel that we always want to see our children doing that. And maybe they don't want to do that. Maybe they don't want to play a particular sport.
Absolutely.
Maybe they don't want to do a particular activity like a dance. Maybe they like music and I'm forcing her to do dance, So I get what you're trying to say. And consciously, you have to make a very big effort, in your mind. We all get angry. Like, for example, today morning, she was in a class and, I was just losing it maybe. Like, I wanted to just hold her up and go like, why are you not doing this? So we all do it. I guess we all lose it. And I think it's time for us to start working on ourselves instead of putting the pressure. Because if you do that, they'll go ahead and do the same thing after 20-30 years. If we actually, I feel now what you're saying, consciously try to parent them, maybe when they become parents or they become, adults, they'll actually try to use that when they're parenting. So the whole system might change, not now, I'm saying overnight, over decades, it might actually change and become better. So I'm getting what you're trying to say. So my next question to you is, Lydia, what are the key elements of conscious parenting?
So, I think the last 5 minutes was very interesting because we were trying to understand what parenting is all about. And then Rupali touched upon conscious parenting, where she very clearly mentioned that parenting is more becoming transactional. And that is something which we really, really need to be aware of. Now, if you ask me what are the elements of conscious parenting, first I would say is we have to understand that conscious parenting or parenting is a two-way approach. It's not a top-down approach. It's not all about the parent putting it on the child. It is both ways. Okay. So the first thing is it's a two-way relationship. Second thing is we have to learn to let go. We cannot, put our dreams, our aspirations on or see through the child, as you mentioned. So we have to learn to let go, let the child decide. Okay. Third is focus on self. As parents, what we do is we focus more on the child than ourselves. So when I say focus on self, what I'm trying to tell parents is that focus on the environment that you're creating for the child. Okay. Focus on the language that you're using at home. Focus on how you approach a particular task or a work or anything for that matter. Focus on how you are dealing with situations. Okay. So big element of conscious parenting, because that's only when you can. Okay. Third is that use positive reinforcement for children. Very important. Sometimes people go overboard with it, but it's always nice, because then the child knows that this is something that I'm doing good and my parents like. So they will tend to do more of it. Because, it happens, when you tell the child, don't do this, they will do more. Don't jump on the sofa, they'll jump more. So, whether it's negative, whether it's positive, the child tends to pick that up. So therefore, I think it's only more advisable that you use positive reinforcement. Okay. The other thing is don't try and fix temporary problems. For example, if your child is crying or if your child is angry, you don't have to fix it there. You let the child express his or her emotion. The child is crying, it's okay to cry, because we have to understand that crying and laughing are the two primary emotions which happens very easily. Because when the child is born, they either laugh or they cry. There's nothing in between. So either they look at you and they laugh, or they'll look at you and cry, So we have to let them express. So don't try and fix the problem. If the child is angry, if the child is grumpy, it's okay. There's a message in the emotion that the child is trying to convey to you. So just observe, just learn. Don't fix it. It will come back. The child will fix it, him or herself. Okay. And the other thing is that, parenting is not only about making the child happy, because we want to do things, everything that will make the child happy. That's not conscious parenting. That's unconscious parenting, because you only want to see the child happy. You can't do everything that the child, and the child is not going to be happy for everything that you do for the child, because the child here has his or her own interpretation of what you're doing or of what he or she likes. So I think these are the basic elements of conscious parenting, but very important to be aware of.
So I know, when you spoke about let the child cry, right? So imagine if we are crying and someone comes and stop crying. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? Why should I stop crying? If I'm feeling the emotions, I want to cry. I want to laugh. I want to cry. So I guess no one sees it in the same sense when it comes to children, right? It's like when they're fussing, like if they're throwing a fit, they throw a lot of fits. I think nowadays, especially these kids in 3s and 4s, I don't know, they are just constantly throwing a fit. I started getting it that, even my one, she's 4. She's home since a year, she's not meeting her friends so much. In the middle, at least when things got better, I did start sending her out for classes. I actually noticed she was much happier then, because she was meeting other children. Even if she didn't know the kids, she was going for golf. She was doing a lot of things, right? That as children, you're supposed to do firstly. And she's not understanding why, again, I've just shut her down in the house or in the building. So, and when she throws a fit, even we tend to start throwing a fit with them. I've seen, not only me, a lot of parents do this. If my child is losing it, I also start losing it. And I actually have never found a solution to this, at least in my parenting. She loses it, I lose it, we both lose it. And then there's the whole house.
It's very important to try and keep the child at the same wavelength as you. When I say that, what I mean is that, like you just mentioned, Now she's wondering, why do I have to stay at home again? So it's very important to let the child know that there's a problem.
Yeah.
Because, nowadays children are very sensitive. It's not like our time where we were so bhola and we couldn't understand, and half the things nobody used to tell us. We only knew we had to go to school and we had to play and we had to sleep and we had to eat on time. There was nothing else. Extracurricular activities bhi kahan hote the us samay. But now children are able to. So it's very important to try and explain to them, like my niece, she's got COVID, okay? My friend's daughter. Now her daughter is with her. Now she wants to go to her grandparents' house. So she was taught earlier that Modi ji has called lockdown, so we can't move out. Okay, so every time you tell her that, she's saying, no, Modi ji is called lockdown, so I cannot go out. So she knows that there is lockdown, there is a problem, there is COVID. It's very important to tell people why they need to, not go out because it's not safe, why you can't play with your friends.
A lot more than we parents think they do. So like for a very small example, if you're even fighting with your spouse, right? You might not actually fight in front of the child, but they sense it because they'll see suddenly things are not 100% normal, right? It's not like just when the child enters, oh, I start laughing with my spouse. That's not normal for adults also, right? So I've also seen, like, if you have a fight with your spouse, they sense it. Children will know, even if they're 3, 4, they know there's an issue, there's some problem. And then they start somewhere, I feel, not openly, but even they start mimicking that behavior, or they start showing it somewhere. Like they know that, there's an issue with my parents, or there's something happening in the house. So, they'll come and say, oh, are you okay? Why are you screaming? Whatever they can understand in their thing. Why are you screaming? Don't get angry. So we don't realize this in the middle of a fight, of course. We just are adults and we fight. But I know people don't realize that, when you're fighting, you shouldn't fight in front of the child. Even if you are, I think it should not go on to the children.
That is where the point of focus on self, instead of focusing on the child.
Yeah, absolutely. So my next question is, Rupali, to you, what are the tools that we can use as a parent for younger kids and older kids? So you can take the younger kids first, and then we can move on to the older children.
So Sanjana, firstly, I would say when we signed up for parenting, we never knew it was going to be such a challenging process, but yes, it is quite challenging. So first, yes, as Lydia mentioned, let's go very easy on ourselves. Let's be really compassionate with ourselves, because it is definitely challenging, and especially in these times, more so.
Yeah.
And coming back to the point where we can, the tools which we can incorporate as a parent, well, guess what? You are the first emotional intelligence teacher of the child. And whether you want it or not, unconsciously, you have, from the time the child came into your lap and you like put your arms to caress the child while it was crying, you sent a message, the brain of the child picked up that signal that this warmth, this touch gives me calmness, So unconsciously, you have already, from the time the child is born, you are kind of, giving emotional signals to the child. And I remember you mentioning that the child senses, because why? Because emotions are almost contagious. And I'll go into that later. But what I'm trying to tell you here is that the first couple of years are the formative years of the child's brain. 85% of the growth happens around that time. And the emotional patterns which are being formed are the ones which are going to, carry on for, the child's life. And these are the patterns which are being soaked unconsciously from the parents, not consciously because they're too young to understand what's happening, but unconsciously. So what you are, what your husband, wife, the grandparents, the immediate environment, it plays such a crucial and pivotal role in kind of shaping up the child's brain, because we say the emotions are almost contagious. Have you ever wondered that when you go to leave your child to school for the first day and the child instinctively cries, why do you think he's doing that? Because he senses the anxiety in you. And they're so smart, they pick it up.
I think we have more anxiety, when we go to drop.
Exactly. Right now, they're sponge boards right now, So whatever you're giving out to them, they are soaking in. So it's like how aware we have to be as a parent is what. And again, that's why I started with, it is a challenging role which we took for. So go easy on yourself there. But that's and sometimes when the child is very anxious, he's wanting attention. What is he trying to tell you? Mom, you're not present here. He senses that you somewhere, probably in, midst of your own chaos, in the midst of something. And he wants you present there because children are gurus of mindfulness. one moment they're happy, the very next moment they are, jumping, sad. So they are the gurus of mindfulness. And when they don't see that presence of you there, they are like, they want your attention. Or for that matter, when in a classroom, one child starts to cry, suddenly everyone starts crying. So that's how infectious the emotions are at that age. And the children are picking up like crazy. So your role is going to be very crucial here. So what I'm trying to say is your awareness of your emotions, your awareness of your child's emotions, how you manage yours, how you manage your child's emotions, and how you help your child regulate his emotions is absolutely key. So for that, your level of emotional intelligence is very important as a parent, So, and what you probably can, kind of imbibe in a small child, is the tools of emotional intelligence. They're probably not aware, but every daily habits of these on a daily basis will probably imbibe these qualities. So first probably would be observing how your child behaves in certain situations. Talk emotions very normally in the house. It's like there's no taboo subject, talk emotions. So for instance, he comes back from school and you say, hey, you look sad. What happened at school? So guess what the child thinks? Oh, he labels his emotion. So I'm feeling sad. So what you're trying to teach the child? Self-awareness. So he's labeling his emotion. So I'm feeling sad. And self-awareness is one of the key components of emotional intelligence. Again, the second tool probably you can probably use it is that, talk about emotions in other people. So very important to have empathy and understanding and compassion of other people's feelings also. So for instance, you see, oh, your friend looks very sad. Do you think you can just go and give him, do you think you can go and give him a hug? So what you're kind of putting in the child's space is to have empathy and compassion for others, a very key component again of emotional intelligence. Now, validating his emotions, it's very, very key because we're always taught, to tell our children, suppress, don't do this. Let the emotions come out. Let him express his emotions. There's nothing called a good or a bad emotion. It's just a feeling. It's like a weather. It comes and it will go. So when the child, for instance, is going through those bad mood and all of that, you can probably tell the child, oh, you're feeling bad because probably you couldn't go for the birthday party. Guess what? Even I would have felt bad too. So what is the kids saying, oh, there's nothing wrong with this, anger emotion or I just need to know how to come out of it, maneuver my way out of it. So he doesn't feel that anger or fear is something which needs to be suppressed. So validate each emotion of the child, which is another very key point of this, is to manage your emotions, which is self-management. And the key point of being emotional is that you're aware of your emotions, you know how to manage your emotions, and you don't have to wallow in emotion, because when you wallow in emotion, that's where the problem starts. So what you can probably inculcate in is a decision-making skills. Now, what you can problem solve. So you wanted to go for a play date with your friend, and that got cancelled. You want to do something fun together in the house. So what you're teaching your child? Grit and resilience, and how to overcome challenges, because it's going to be a part and parcel of life. Let's face it. So you are telling the child not to sit with that emotion. The device plans how to come out of that. So these very small tools, if you can unconsciously put in the child's space, because you as a parent are going to be spending more time than anyone else in the world. No matter how many classes you send the child to, your impact on your child is paramount,
So and now, especially Rupali, because the kids are all home, right? So there's no one else to not parent. I'm sorry, I used the wrong term. There's no one else to do anything. It's just us. They're with us the entire time. They play with us. They study with us. I mean, everything they're supposed to do with, with the teacher or with the whoever outside. They're doing everything with the parents now.
Yes, absolutely. Home.
So yeah, and this is I think this is the most important years of toddlers and all, and they're just instead of actually being in school and growing up normally, like with mud and everything, they actually just stuck at home.
And a lot of empathy for them. You really feel it, because this was the time that they're supposed to be out and having fun and being, and and a lot of compassion for yourself too, because it's not easy for having a child 24/7. So it's like mutual empathy for very important. Yeah, absolutely. And coming back to the elder children, well, what happens is we need to kind of tweak the love here. So from the child who was so dependent on you, suddenly the
sorry for interrupting. Elder, what would you mean? Like what age considers? Yeah.
So I'm looking at the age of around 7 to around adolescence. I'm looking at adolescence here. So this is the age where we need to kind of tweak our love. So suddenly from the point of view where they was totally dependent on you, they kind of disassociate with their parents. They want to form their own identity. They want to form their own peer group. Suddenly they have this fascination for social groups, for social media. They are prone to, trying newer things. The body is going through hormonal changes. The sleep patterns change. They want to try, they're prone to risk taking, trying newer things and all of that. Now, this is the time where the brain goes through another round of change. And UNICEF is presently we are around 1.2 billion adolescents, and all of them are at that crucial juncture in their life, and they call it the second window of opportunity, solely because this is the period, if you are to harness them properly, the emotional patterns, the friends which are going to be formed now are going to be really, really crucial in their overall growth. So your role again as a parent is very, very important. But as I said, the parenting needs to be tweaked. So the same skills, I would say, because they're so emotionally triggered right now, you're being sensitive to their feelings is very important. You're being kind of consciously telling them to express their feelings, because a suppressed feeling is where the problem starts. Express and listening attentively without any points of view. We have this a common dogma where we say we know what's best for the child. That needs to be totally removed.
But does that actually happen on just as a does that actually happen on individual basis on a day-to-day? Can you actually listen to your child without giving your opinion and your judgment? Does it actually ever happen?
Well, it is a process. First, remember, parenting is an evolving process. Suddenly we cannot go to the point of view of conscious parenting. It's a gradual awareness. But believe me, once you go to that space, believe me, it gives you a lot of peace also. When you do not objectify your love for the child, when you are so full of your self-love that you have only love to give the child, it's a nice space to be in. When I look back, I feel with my son, my eldest son, there was more of traditional parenting involved. There was a lot of fears, a lot of expectation. But with my child, with my younger one, I'm trying to kind of do conscious parenting. And it is, believe me, very challenging, because at my ego at times is like, how can you? The first reaction is to put you down. When I said this, and this is the word and law. But I'm trying to get there. And it's a nice space to be in, because I sense her expansion
between your first and the second.
Yeah, I definitely sense that. So we all work in progress. So listening, listening to the child without any points of view, very, very important. Again, giving them positive feedback, without focusing more on the outcome. Just appreciate whatever small things they're doing. Take out that me time with your child, where the child can just be and talk and say whatever. And very important, since they're very emotionally wired during these times, to practice the pause, because they are role modeling you like crazy. So if you go into your meltdowns and be that, guess what? They are going to role model you and be that for themselves too. So your demeanor of a non-reactive parent is very important. And while they kind of vent it out, with that verbal diarrhea which is going around in their space, later on you can very subtly put in the space. Maybe you need to know how to manage your triggers, and they're being open to decision-making skills. Again, very important part of the developing written resolution, especially in these times. The kind of issues the adolescence is going through it's not even funny, and it's very sad, but something which we need to kind of look into for sure. So these are the a lot of tools one more thing is very important is encouraging for the interpersonal skills, because this is the time they need to kind of be a part of social groups, so which will help them in communicating better, listen better. Communication skills are all developed. So all these really help in kind of building the emotional intelligence of the child.
That's a lot of information to take in over such a short period of time. But I'm sure once, I got from everything that, you need to start working on yourself first before you actually do anything else beyond that. Okay. So my next question is, Lydia, for you, can you talk about the online platform Motivo, please, so people know more about it?
So before I talk about the online platform, I just want to say one thing is that every emotion, there is a message that the child is trying to convey. Rupali nicely explained about the emotions and the parents and the connection. We just have to be very, very aware that there is a message in every emotion. One. Two is that it's very easy to become judgmental. Now, there's a very thin line, between being judgmental and being listening and advising. Now, how can we, kind of differentiate that? Because as parents, it's not possible to just listen. To hoga nahi. It's for every parent, we have to, but what we can probably do is that we can first listen and then give opinion. Then what happens? Then you don't become judgmental because you've listened. Okay. And then you are using your own experience to tell the child what you think about that issue that the child is facing. And it will be more as your child becomes adolescent, not so much for the little ones, but actually, yes, for the little ones also. So then you won't be probably misconstrued as being judgmental. Then you are doing two things. What? A, you're being a good listener because you've listened. Okay. And then you're giving your opinion. But what happens otherwise is we straight away go and cut it and say, ye nahi, ye galat hai, ye mat karo. Are kyun ja rahe ho bhi? No, we're not listening. So we could just use this a little bit, and I think a lot will change. So listening and then advising.
I don't have a teenage child, but we've all been through those teenage years. I think teenagers have this maximum problem. Our parents don't listen, they don't understand. So I'm not even going to bother with them. So either, if they want something, they either hide and do it, or they lie and do it. Or this happens. I'm sure it still happens right now. Of course, I'm not a teenager, nor do I have a teenage kid. But I've seen teenagers have this maximum problem. They just hate their parents. I mean, that's one relation. You just have to take it for granted that teenagers don't like their parents. And
just one more thing, what we could probably do is that offer help. So there are three things. One is listen. Okay, don't try and cut their emotions. Let them cry, shout, scream, angry, whatever. Second is you can offer help, saying, is there anything that I can do for you? That time the child will say no, whatever. But later on, the child somewhere subconsciously has retained that my parent is offering help. So I will go back. You go to the kitchen, थोड़े देर बाद आके वो आपके बाजू में खड़े हो जाएंगे. They'll come in next to you, they'll hold on to you, and then they will start. So give them that space, offer help, and probably then offer advice. So then you can, I think this 3-step will probably help. Now coming back to Motivo and our online platform. So you already explained beautifully about Motivo and what our aims and objective is. So but what we want to do is, between Rupali and myself, we thought over it and we thought this was the niche that we wanted to kind of focus on, because in India, we don't either consciously or unconsciously want to invest in the emotional health or the developmental side for our children. But if you say, academics hai, there's this particular tutor who's very good in science, uske har bacche isko karte hain 90, doesn't matter what the fees is, you will go there. Okay, so we shy away somewhere from using, but we have to understand that this is the age where we can work on their development, and that's why we say that it's better to have build strong children than to have broken adults later on. So the Motivo platform, the online platform, focuses on training for adolescents, all developmental programs. We help them navigate through the adolescence so that they can, foster their growth, their development. Okay, but knowing the times that we are living in, we have started with emotional intelligence, because we thought, and as you've read that, 1 out of every child in India or abroad, everywhere globally, is going through some kind of mental stress. So we thought, why not emotional intelligence? And that's where we designed our emotional intelligence program. This is based on the Daniel Goleman model, okay, which is the 4 components of which Rupali mentioned earlier: self-awareness, knowing your feelings; self-management, you know your feelings, but you have to know how to manage it. You don't live alone, so you also have to think about your friends. So that is social awareness. And then, of course, you've got to build strong relationship, because relationships are very important from the time you're born till the time you leave this earth. So you have to know how to maneuver relationships. So these are the 4 components of emotional intelligence. And there are 4, we've divided them into 4 groups. So there is an elementary model, there's a junior model, there's a medial, and there's an advanced. Because you can't deal with a 6-year-old the way you deal with a 15, 17-year-old. Yeah. So that's why we've divided this whole course into 4, groups. And the program is run online. Basically, it's a complete online program because all children are very digitally, up there and technically very, very savvy. Yeah. So if you ask them now to write, probably they won't. So this is why we have made this program fully online. It's fully digital. Okay. Throughout the week, they do various activities, and once a week they meet with the coaches, where we discuss, about the program, what they've done, the activities. We have peer learning because we have children all across India. So, and always remember, no two people think the same way. So when I say, I'm feeling angry because of a particular situation, you may be feeling sad. Then there's a lot of difference between feeling sad and feeling angry. So that's the discussion that we're going to have with the children. Saying, okay, you said you're feeling sad. You said you're feeling angry. I mean, why is it different? Because the situation is same. So we're going to get the children thinking, we're going to get the children asking. We're going to get the children wondering, I'm angry, but she's sad, or she's happy. Why? So that's why we have this, this Zoom session online, where we encourage peer learning, where kids debate, where they think, they do activities together. So this is how the program is kind of, designed. And of course, they can log into motivo.in to know more about the program in detail and to know about the outcome.
So what age does this program start? At 6?
6.
Not before that, right? 6 to?
Not before.
6 to teenage years.
6 till 17.
Till 17. So right now you'll only have a program on emotional intelligence.
Yes. We are focusing on that, keeping in mind the need of the hour.
One just question from my end before we move on to the next question. When it comes to conscious parenting, how do you take that forward then? Do you speak to the parents? Is it sessions?
So,
with the parents?
I'll tell you what, so long we've been discussing about what is conscious parenting. Okay, so we've already told them how, the elements and all of that. And now, if you link conscious parenting to emotional intelligence, and how will this course help them? Okay, the couple of things. We recommend, okay, because we cannot force parents, but we recommend that the parent should partner the child in doing the activities, because all the activities that the child does in this emotional intelligence program are all self-revelation. The child is revealing him or herself. More than often, we don't do that. How many times have we asked a child, what makes you happy? What makes you sad? Or, what are you good at? What does your teacher think you're good at? Or, what are you good at in your neighborhood? What do you think your parent or your friend likes about you? Nobody. They don't, because we're not trained like that. That's the difference that we're wanting to make through this program. We're trying to build this cohesive relationship with the child and the parent, where the parent only does not ask about academics, or does not only reprimand, or does not only want to make the child feel happy by giving him all the expensive gifts, but ask the child important questions. Try and understand your child more deeper, where the child is actually doing the revelation, him or herself. The parent is only observing. So there is a lot for the parents to learn about the child. What makes my child happy? What makes my child sad? What is my child good at? Does she like dancing? Does she like singing? What is it? So, again, the element of not living your dreams through your child. Yeah. Let the child live his or her dream. So there's a lot of revelation that will come out for the parents, and it is highly recommended that the parent, at least till the junior module, because 15, 16, 17, the children these days are very mature. They may not like to share a lot of things with the parents, but till at least about 14, we recommend that the parent sit with that child for that 20 minutes of that activity that the child is doing every day, to understand why the child is thinking the way the child is thinking. What is it that I'm trying to learn about my child? It's very interesting, and that's where the conscious parenting will help you, where you're going to be open about what your child is revealing about him or herself, and accept the child. Acceptance is very important.
I know. So, I don't know if this is big coincidence. Only yesterday, in fact, I put up a story on Instagram. It was just, so I am doing these couple of days, this thought of the day, because COVID is going on right now so much. So I put out this story saying, thought of the day, just sit with your child for 5 minutes and ask them how they are feeling, sad or happy. Because
Very
I did that.
important.
I did that with my daughter a couple of days back. There was something she got sad about. Okay, I don't know what, something very silly, and I could see she's still only 4. I could see she got sad. So I asked her, "What are you sad about? This happened," and she's 4. She said, "Mama, na something. My toys were not there. You know, his toys were there. Mine were not there." So I understood because I saw her face drop, and I didn't want to ask in front of her friends or other people, right? So later on, I asked after, I said, what happened? You looked a little sad. What was the problem? Tell me. And she did tell me. She said this was the issue. I mean, in her mind, it must have been a huge issue. Of course, for me, it was like,
Of course.
you
Yeah,
get.
absolutely.
But
See,
I
today
did.
it's about the toy. Tomorrow, when
Yeah,
as she grows up and you ask her, it'll be something
it'll be something
more
to do with
detailed.
school, with the
Very
studies, with her friends. I know it's going to keep getting, of course, today she's just 4. But so this is what I put up yesterday for all the mothers, that,
It's a
take out
beautiful
5 minutes,
thing.
take out 10 minutes, just take out 5 minutes. I mean, I know all mothers now playing with their children. We are
Mhm.
with work and with a lot of things, we are giving them also time because they're home. And all our classes are online, so we have to sit for that. But no one ever sits and asks whether you're happy or sad and how you're feeling. They feel a 3-year-old, what will you
Absolutely.
ask a 3-year-old? No, but even a 3-year-old feels sad and happy, right? So I
Absolutely.
actually try to use this today that I'm talking to you. I'm understanding what is it, but I actually consciously try and do this with her at least once or twice a week, if not every day. Again, if I feel she's upset about something, of course, besides that, the other 80% I'm screaming, maybe when she's screaming, but at least there, if I know something she's not liked or something she's upset about, if she's not, she'll say, no, I'm not sad, I'm happy. But it's my duty to just ask her, even if she's a baby, to ask her, are you fine? That's it. It's going to take me 30
Absolutely.
seconds to ask my child, are you fine? So I am now understanding when you're telling me in detail that where all this stems from. So I think we should also carry on because otherwise we'll be sitting here for 2 hours and none of this is going to finish. Okay. Rupali, what is important, EQ or IQ? If you could just quickly take this.
Yeah, so basically EQ is emotional quotient and IQ is the emotional intelligence quotient. So the prefrontal cortex or the thinking brain, we can call it, is is responsible for planning, executing, analyzing, and making decisions. And the feeling brain or the limbic brain is like what you approach, what you don't approach based on your emotions, your gut feelings, and instincts. Now, research has said that 80% of a success in life is guaranteed if the EQ is higher, whereas only 20% of the success would be contributed to your IQ. Yeah, and the thing is, these days, if you see, well, if your IQ is good, you might land up a good job. But how you sustain in that job, how motivated are you amidst the challenges, how are your relationship skills with the people and all depends upon your EQ. So no wonder these days people are being asked how good are they in the EQ rather than the IQ. But having said that, EQ is something which we are not something which we have never invested in India, is something which we've always kind of underrated. But if we have to understand, they are absolutely paramount. I would not say it's EQ versus IQ. I would say EQ plus IQ will actually make you get self-mastery in all aspects of your life. And stalwarts like Elon Musk of Tesla, Jeff Bezos of Amazon, and Indra Nooyi PepsiCo strongly advocate the importance of, building EQ in your child. Now, the thing is, the problem starts when we do not pay heed to the emotions of the child. And you do not pay heed to the emotions of the child, guess what? You're creating molecular blockages in the child's body, which later on comes out as a form of a disease, either physical or mental. So the mental, if you, as Lydia has shared, that 1:5 children are suffering from anxiety disorder. Depression is an all-time high. Substance abuse has started. So whether we want to address it or not, it is there and it's staring really hard at us.
I totally agree with you. Is there people just don't want to talk about it here because people like,
Yes.
why, there's no need. Like, if someone is having an issue. So it's as simple. When you have a cold, you go to a doctor, right? This is about not emotional intelligence, but just separately. When you have a cold, when someone calls you, don't you say, oh, I've got a cold, I'm feeling feverish. If someone calls you, never say, oh, I'm feeling a bit low. No one ever says that because then people like, what is the need to say that? But it's equally important, right? Mental health.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, I could be the world. I mean, I could get 100 in my math score or 100 in anything, A levels, whatever. But if I'm not there mentally, how do you move on in life? Like, how do you go ahead? How do you get motivated to do anything else? I mean, I could just be sitting on that score and then do what with that score?
Absolutely.
So I keep saying, people have to really realize that mental health is equally important.
Absolutely.
So that is what
We have to teach
our
our
kids.
children, or even for that matter, parents have to teach their children express. Okay, because mental health issues or emotional breakdown can happen to anybody. It doesn't see your background, it doesn't see who you are, how successful you are. If you're trained to express and acknowledge, you will bounce back. But if you're not, trained enough, or you don't know how to acknowledge what you're going through, you can break down.
Yeah.
See, if you go back Deepika Padukone's case, she was in the helm of, affair. Like, she was successful. She was like the epitome. And she realized that she had this, mental depression. But the good thing is, she knew she had it. She knew something was wrong and she acknowledged it. She asked for help. She asked her mother for help, and that's how she was able to get herself corrected and bounce back again.
I'll tell you, Lydia,
Very
what I feel
important.
the problem here, generally is like, log kya kahenge? I mean, that
Bilkul.
log is not going to live with you, bhai. That log is not going to take your business ahead. That log is not going to marry you. I mean, this is the problem. Look, what will people say? I mean, to hell with people, because I don't have to live with those people. I have to
Exactly.
live myself. I have to be mentally, physically, every way happy to actually live to a certain age, right? So this is the
Bilkul.
problem. What will people say? I mean, when someone tells me what will people say, I'm like, look, I don't have to live with that people. I have to live with myself. I have to live with my family, my spouse, my child, my parents, right? I don't have to live with my neighbor. I don't have to live with someone in another country. This is the problem. And parents have this thing. Oh no, don't tell someone you're feeling like this. What will people think? I mean, come on.
So that's traditional parenting,
You have to tell people. You get help. You get help. You get out of it. You get out of it. You move on in life.
Bounce
Or you
back.
want
Yes.
your children to get sicker if you don't address the problem. Like, if I leave a fever, is it going to just evaporate? No, I have to take that crocin, right? So you have to take that medicine. It's the same way with mental health.
It has to be treated, and it has to be spoken about. It has to be, first you have to acknowledge, then only you can treat it. So that's why before we reach to that stage, we should invest in the emotional well-being of our children, because we need to now start training them to talk about feeling happy, feeling sad. And that's all about emotional wellness. We start with saying that I'm happy, I'm sad, I know how you feel, oh, you've lost your doll. I understand. I've had a doll, which broke. So I completely, simple things. That's how it all begins. Know yourself, know your friend, know your relatives, know everybody. And that's the kind of work that Rupali and myself want to do. We want to, bring that little change. And if we can, I think.
I'm totally with you on that change. Like, again, a very small example, some pair of shoes I had ordered, similar with my daughter and me, same, matching. Mine arrived, hers didn't. So by passing, I just told her, look, mine has come. And she started crying, where's mine? I said, yours is special. It needs an extra strap. Mine didn't need that extra strap. I've just got not the nice one.
That's a nice way.
She became
very smart.
like, oh, mine is special. I said, yes, you have an extra strap at the back because you're a baby. They're sending you a special one. She forgot about the shoe. She forgot about why mine came first. She forgot about everything. She started playing. I mean, I could have said, oh God, why are you whining?
Yes,
but and this was 2 minutes before we started this discussion. I just told her and I came to my room, I said, now you go and play. So I know it's, they all have this thing. You have to just maneuver things a little bit and tell them.
Correct.
Okay, so quickly, my last question before I move on. I don't think we have too much time. We have about 5-10 minutes left. Like you said, Lydia, Motiva has developed a program on emotional intelligence. Can you just quickly share details for people listening to this? About
on the program?
Yeah, just a little bit.
So as I mentioned, it's a 5-week program because we said, as I mentioned just a few minutes back, that it's based on Daniel Goleman. So it's like a complete based on 4 components, because we didn't think that it would be advisable to just touch and go, because all programs in India, there are programs in India which is an amalgamation of mindfulness and emotional intelligence and all of that. So it's not really touching the whole circle of emotional intelligence. So you like touch it and go. But what we have decided that no, we will go whole hog. We will talk about everything, because children are now, smarter than we used to be. So they will understand, and therefore we've designed these 4 components. So it's a 5 weeks program. It starts with an introduction,
Yeah.
okay, and then it goes on to the 4 modules of 4 weeks. So introduction plus 4 is 5 weeks, and it is based on videos. So the child sees a video and understands about that module, and then they do a whole lot of activities. So when I say whole lot, I don't want the parents to get very worried. It is all 10-15 minutes activities each day, because understand their children, we are introducing something to them. We could have just done a 2 hours workshop, or we could have done a whole day workshop and put everything on them and said, okay, now we've done our job. But that's not it. We want them to understand. We want them to understand self-awareness. We want them to know how to understand the feelings. And now that you know your feelings, we want them to learn as to how do I manage it? If I'm angry, what do I do? And also, if I'm angry, I shout. Koi chilayega, koi, somebody will throw things. So what do I do when I'm angry? So, that's why that detailed program is.
So is it a one-on-one, or is it like a group session?
So it's an online program. Okay. So the whole week, the child, along with the parent, as I said, it's highly recommended that you partner your child doing the program, does the activity. So it's like a little homework every day on various emotions. They do activities, and once a week they meet us. So we will do one session with all the junior kids. We will do one session with all the senior kids, like that. We do one session for about 60 minutes to 90 minutes, depending on, whether it's elementary or whether it's advanced. And we go through the activities. We do debriefs. We ask them why they thought the way they thought. Why is Sanjana thinking differently? Why is Rupali thinking like that? And for that matter, why Lydia has thought the way she has thought, So there's like a little discussion. We do little activities. We teach them little tools. Ki agar aapko gussa hai, to aapko kya karna chahiye? If you're feeling happy, what you should do. So these little techniques we teach them. And then we complete the 5 weeks. At the end of the week, at the end of the course, which is the 5th week, we give them a certificate of participation, because everybody likes to be appreciated. Everybody likes to take back something. So that's the certificate of participation, and that's how the program works.
That's great. It's lovely, and I think it will really help parents and children, especially today, what is happening and everything. Everyone is so stressed out at home. Children don't know where to keep their emotions. Even parents don't know nowadays where to handle their emotions. They are just losing it, I think, after a few days.
I know.
So I think it's really, really going to help. And, whoever's listening to that, I would highly recommend for your kids, please join it. If not now, further, down the line, it's really going to help them as adults. So guys, this brings us to the end of our question and answers. So a couple of people, I had a few questions, and I'll just quickly read them out. If you can just take one minute, because we actually don't have time. We actually went on a very long discussion here. And so someone had written, how can a mother let go of a feeling that she does? And I'm sure you've addressed most of the answers while, the discussion, but if you could just touch on each point. How can a mother let go of the feeling that she does not have to be perfect, and it's okay for her to have her me time? I really struggle with this, as I feel that I always have to be there, and not okay for me to feel that the baby is irritating me. Like I want to I want to be okay if I do a mistake as a mother, and I'm not a super mom. Do you get this question? Like she's basically saying, is it okay to be imperfect? And she thinks she's not perfect or whatever, if she makes a mistake, is a big burden on her head.
No, Sanjana, I would just tell whoever's addressed, this is nothing, this hype about a perfect mother, where even the best of parenting coaches, there's no one. The best of people cannot be, because everybody goes through their challenges with the child. So just get off that topic. And one dogma which every person, every mother goes through is the dogma of not being good enough. We always struggle not being good enough in the relationships, not being a good enough parent. So this is a guilt which we have always carried. So what I would really strongly recommend this person who's kind of said, to accept yourself the way you are, acceptance, self-acceptance of yourself, self-love of yourself, no matter what you are, is going to create that space where you will embrace yourself for whatever you are. And from that space, you can only bond even better with your child. So, when you're in the space of non-acceptance, guess what? You'll be with the child. You'll be always non-accepting of your child, and there'll be a friction. So just get off that dogma of not being good enough, and firstly remembering there's nothing called a perfect mother. They all work in
Not perfect.
progress.
And if the fact that you're, considering that I'm perfect, I think that's enough. Like, if you're even thinking that, I'm making a mistake and I'm not a super mom, I think that makes
So
you
much of pressure.
Yeah.
How much of pressure is she putting herself on?
I don't
Oh
know.
my
I
God.
know. I actually told her, I said, firstly, there's nothing wrong with a perfect mom. We do our best we can for a child, each of us, in every
Exactly.
sphere, small, big, whatever we do. There's no concept of being perfect when it comes to parenting. So I'm sure. And there's another question.
On this Sanjana, there's another point that probably each parent, whenever they feel guilty or they think they're not doing enough, just ask them to identify the source. From where is this coming? It is coming most of the time, 99%, it is coming of our own experience as a child.
Okay, maybe, yeah.
So it's very important to identify that, because somewhere she felt that probably, I either she didn't have that kind of attention, or she was overloaded with the attention that she feels she's not doing enough. So either of them. So probably she can identify.
Maybe it would be stemming from her childhood. Okay.
Yes,
absolutely.
okay, very much.
The next one is this lockdown has affected my kids in many ways. My daughter has become very moody and distracted which is impacting her everyday activity. To otherwise she used to listen and concentrate a lot earlier. How can I work on this?
I think so long we've been speaking about regulating emotions and all that. I think it's just temporary. And sometime back, I said in the elements of conscious parenting, don't try and fix something which is very temporary. So let her be. But having said that, she can explore, activities which are online. First, understand what she likes and probably explore what she enjoys, and then put her on that and see her change. But tell her nothing to worry about, not to fix anything which is temporary. It's just a passing phase and she'll be okay. Emotions come and go. But on a lighter note, she can obviously enroll her for the emotional intelligence program, and we'll try and interact with her and see how we can help her.
Sure. The last question. When we, again, this is the same, similar. When we are in a hurry, the child senses that and the kid is not cooperating and acts difficult. How do we handle it?
So how much of that anxiety is coming from the parent is my question to that.
Hurry. No.
Yeah, so yeah, absolutely. So so maybe something about being late. So what is affecting her most, that there is something quality of that being late is also a part of hers, So this is, so where it really affects us is something which we need to look into also. So consciously working towards, seeing that, you can regulate your timing so that you're on time for that. And you don't reach that space of, getting anxious, because your anxiety and your coupled with your child's anxiety, guess what's going to be a big bamboozlement of anxiety. So, consciously regulating the timings and understanding that somehow that anxiety is coming from the parent too, So looking into the routines and the chores herself.
I remember someone had asked me this very similar question a few months back, and of course I'm not an expert like you on this, but what my answer was, tell me if I'm wrong. Maybe I gave the wrong advice. I just said that if you think you're going to get late, or you've changed something during the day, tell the kids 10 minutes earlier. Tell them.
Exactly.
Make them, put them in the plan. Tell them, now we have to be here like 10 minutes earlier to prepare them that, we have to go somewhere. We have to leave 10 minutes earlier. So they also have time to, if someone comes and tells me, oh, get ready in 2 minutes, I have to go, I'm going to snap at that person.
Yeah, absolutely. And why wouldn't the child do that?
Tell them your plan from before and just include them in the plan, little bit. Don't suddenly pull them off and say, chalo,
very important.
Yeah, we have to respect a child, maintain healthy boundaries with the children, a very key factor of emotional intelligence. Just because they're children, we don't own them. They come with their own sovereign, their wholeness. So, we have to honor that, and when we start honoring that, they will reciprocate in kind. So give them the respect. So it doesn't matter what age it is. Just give them the respect which they do and maintain healthy boundaries with them, and they'll reciprocate in kind very soon. It's just when we try to enmesh with the parent, we try to control the child, is that they retaliate because the inner being cannot take it.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything that you all have said anyways.
Just prepare them. I think you have to prepare. Kal subah 8 o'clock, if there's an online class and you haven't told the child.
I said, Babu, you have class in the morning at 8:30. You have school now. You have to wake up at 8. So please go to sleep. I tell her every night. And I tell her, no class tomorrow, sleep late. sleep or get up at 9, 10, 11. I don't care, sleep late. But I tell her every night that you have class in the morning. She mentally before sleeping, she knows when she
Very
gets up,
good.
she knows I have class. You can't just say, "Arey, ut jao," just sit down on the chair.
Sanjana, you should be a certified emotional intelligence teacher. You are a great parent, frankly speaking.
Thank
The
you.
tools which you have shared was really good.
I might actually take that up as an offer, and take that up. If I do it, I'm definitely coming to you for a job.
Yes, yes.
It'll be a pleasure to be a part of
But
Mother.
guys, it was really, really a pleasure, the entire thing. I